أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين. Continuing with our discussions which we started in the two previous discussions, where we were addressing this question, we were discussing this question which was directed towards us as to why we have adopted the methodology we have adopted. Yeah. Now we are not going into the details of. We have already explained it, so I don't want to get into the details again. We stopped here. I gave different reasons as to why I've adopted the methodology. We reached to this point as to, are we over directing and spoon feeding our communities and our masses, or are we empowering them? Okay, so and then we discussed examples from the Sunni world in the previous discussion. Now those we were discussing the consequence of spoon feeding and over directing. We discussed the effects and the consequences of spoon feeding the masses and the community from the Sunni world. Now those examples were not limited to the Sunni world. The reason I mentioned it from the Sunni world excuse me. The reason I mentioned it's from the Sunni world is because I heard those examples and I read it from the Sunni world, and that's why I said it's from the Sunni world. Otherwise, they're not limited to the Sunnis, they're even applicable to Shias. So when we come today discussing the Shia examples, again, these are not limited to the Shias. They're even applicable to the Sunnis for the same reason, okay? Now, we are discussing the whole issue. Please keep in mind that we are answering the question which was directed towards us. But we said we will be answering it via giving practical examples of the state of the Ummah. When the state of the Ummah is like this, then us choosing a methodology which is clarifying further opinions doesn't make sense, okay? The first step is to be able to understand that there is diversity, okay? So today we get into examples from the Shia world. Again, I say that it's not limited to the Shia world only. Okay, so example number one. Notice when you are spoon-fed, when you're overly spoon-fed, when you are overly directed, this is what happens then, okay? We repeat what we have heard. Now, what's unfortunate is that this is also happening in the seminaries, and this is hurting at times, that us being the product of the seminary, we see this at times happening, that we are also being spoon-fed in one direction. Okay, now let me give you an example, and this example is not a rare example to find. Okay, so somebody should not tell me that this was your teacher who said that. I would say that the opposite is very true. Okay, to find those teachers who can give you diverse opinions is very rare. Rather, the teachers would always focus on one direction. So I remember when we were having a class of tafsir with one of the teachers. This was a whole year where we had a tafsir class with this teacher, and he repeated this statement several times, and that's why I'm repeating it. So he asked us, the students, to come choose. Each of us should choose one or two tafsirs, and then we would pick up verses and then come and discuss those verses according to those tafsirs. So one of the students who had picked up Majma' al-Bayan, whenever the discussion would come on Majma' al-Bayan of Allama Tabasi, the 5th, 6th century tafsir, he would repeat this, and he repeated this several times, that we don't, okay, this is a statement, that we don't allow our students in the bachelor's degree to read Majma' al-Bayan. Okay, look at where the spoon feeding is going to now. That a seminary student also who has come to study his deen now is being limited of what to study also. Okay, it's like we don't allow the bachelor's degree students to study Majma' al-Bayan, and we don't recommend it to them. When it comes to masters also, we choose that should we allow them or should we not allowed, but we don't recommend it even in the master's level. So this is 7, 8 to 10 years of the seminary where you are just being directed in one direction. He says, yes, when you reach the classes of PhD and above, then we allow students then to pick up Majma'ul Bayan. Okay, this is where spoon feeding reaches. Now, why Majma'ul Bayan is like this? Now, from the name Majma'ul Bayan, okay, it's a Majma'ul Bayan, it's a collection of bayans. Basically, what Allama Tabrasi does in his Majma'ul Bayan is he collects different opinions from the time of the Sahaba all the way to his time. He would collect all the opinions on a particular verse and bring them there. Now this is something which teachers are worried about. What if a student comes up with different opinions now when you study different aqwal and different opinions on a verse, okay? And that's why they don't want to allow this to happen even at a master's level. Yes, at a level of PhD and higher, then they allow it, okay? Now, this is now coming down to the masses also. Okay, so these effects now come back to the masses. When these scholars come back to the communities also, so when these scholars who have undergone through studies, for example, 8-10 years, they have been directed with one direction. Okay, they have not been exposed to books of other diverse opinions. Then they come and regurgitate and repeat whatever they have been taught. And that's why they undergo dilemmas now. Okay, so I remember, as I said, I'm giving practical examples without mentioning names. The importance is the concepts rather than the the names. So I remember having discussion with a group of scholars. Now I'll not say where, and I remember telling them that you should introduce al-Mizan, Tafsir al-Mizan as a subject, as a whole discussion point for the communities and the masses, because we have to upgrade the level of the masses and the communities. So there was hesitation straight away on accepting al-Mizan as a reference point. Okay? And the reason for that is, again, when we come and discuss al-Mizan sometime, we'll come and see. But I've mentioned some reasons in the previous discussions also. But al-Mizan, Tafsir al-Mizan, as much as it's a beautiful tafsir, it's not been accepted within the Shia world the way it needs to be accepted. And the reason for that is starting all the way from the methodology of Allama Tabatabai. So scholars have problems with his methodology. The Quran with Quran. So he proposes that Quran should be understood with Quran. We'll come and discuss that further sometime in the future. Okay, this is a problem altogether because of the akhbari mindset, of the dependence on hadith. This methodology became a very foreign methodology now. That how can we understand Quran with Quran only? What's the role of hadith then? So then they ended up now accusing, and there are papers on this, okay? I'm not saying this, there are papers on this, that Allama Tabatabai doesn't believe in the validity of hadith altogether. Okay, so you will notice even he himself discusses in Quran in Islam. It's a small booklet. He discusses the role of Ahlul Bayt when it comes to tafsir also. And the reason is these questions which were sent to him and these doubts which get created, that he doesn't believe in. The articles and papers being written on this, that he doesn't believe in hadith anymore. Okay, so now they're for and against being written, to that extent that somebody even goes to count how many hadith in Tafsir al-Mizan itself. So some have said that 2,000 hadith Allama Tabatabai has used in al-Mizan. Okay, to that extent people have gone too further. Not only the accusation of hadith, now it goes further also of who is using Sunni hadith also. So if you go in his tafsir again, you will notice that he's referencing books of hadith of Sunnis. Okay, so for example, you will see often him quoting Durrul Manthur of Allama Suyuti, who is a 10th century scholar. Okay, he refers to that book a lot also. Now, where is the Shia books then? Okay, this is a question which has been directed towards him also. Sometimes he doesn't even consider the validity, the sanad of the hadith. He will bring weak hadith. Some have questioned this now as to why do you bring weak hadith also. So there's a reason for why he brings those weak hadith also. He puts his footnote in Al-Mizan himself, okay? And then the conclusions he has drawn in Al-Mizan, because of his approach and methodology, some of his conclusions are different from the common understanding and the common belief. Okay, so inshallah, when we come and discuss Al-Mizan, we will come and discuss him further. Inshallah, you come and see that why is the hesitation out there also to accept a tafsir like Tafsir Al-Mizan to be taught to the masses and the public. Okay. Now, because of all this, the community now and these scholars and speakers in the community are in a dilemma now. Okay, what's the dilemma? And please, I want us to pay attention. This is where my heart now starts coming out as to this. Until we don't sort of these issues, where do we need to go until we come to that time where we can express our opinions very freely and openly? Yeah. So this dilemma is what dilemma now? So the dilemma is, on one side, Quran keeps on categorically emphasizing the importance of reflection, pondering and thinking. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَفَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ أَفَلَا يَسْمَعُونَ أَفَلَا so many, okay? The whole Quran is a book of reflection and thinking and guiding us towards using our aql and thinking. Okay? The paradox is here now that the Quran, which guides us to thinking, is now being used to stifle thinking. Very unfortunate situation we are in today. Okay, so the Quran, which came and liberated the Arabs at that time because it allowed them to think freely, today we are being told no, we can't think and ponder and reflect. Okay, this is the irony and paradox. Now, the dilemma is here. On one side, the Quran emphasizing pondering and reflection and thinking. On the other side now, when this person or whoever, it's a he or a she, goes and reflects on the Quran, they come out with a conclusion which is opposite and contrary to the common understanding and the belief. Immediately a defense mechanism is launched by scholars. Shias and Sunnis, Shias and Sunnis quickly launch a defense mechanism. You are not an expert. You are not a mufassir. You are not an exegesist. Okay, you cannot understand the Quran. You need to go back to the mufassir to understand the Quran. Okay, come see even in the Sunni world. Okay, a person reads the Quran, he will for sure conclude that the whole theory and the belief of adalatul Sahaba doesn't stand in the Quran. Okay, the Quran discusses the problems of Medina. The Prophet had to go through problems. The Sahabas themselves had problems. To that extent, the fights went on. No sane mind would come and accept this adalatul Sahaba. Okay, now when a Sunni person reads the Quran and comes out and tells a scholar what Quran would not match with this understanding, straight away a defense mechanism is launched. You are not a mufassir, you are not an expert, you cannot understand. Okay? Can you see this? Similarly, when you come to Shias also, so many beliefs. When you raise a question and you will be quickly told off that who are you? You are not a mufassir, you are not an expert. Okay? Now, the worst part is here. And this is where I'm trying to say that we initially need to empower and then reach to those higher levels of methodology of clarifying each other's opinions. The worst part is here is that when a muhkam verse now is made a mutashabih now. This is where we are living today. Okay, an issue which was supposed to be as clear as muhkam now has been turned into a mutashabih. And when it comes to mutashabih and ambiguous verse, what do the scholars say there? Me and you cannot understand the verse. We have to go back to the experts, okay? So a muhkam verse, a very clear verse, is now being turned into becoming a mutashabih. Why? Because of this dilemma we are facing through. Okay, on one side we are told read the Quran, understand the Quran. On the other side we are being told, but don't reach conclusions which we don't allow you to. Okay, أَآمَنْتُمْ قَبْلَ أَنْ آذَنَ لَكُمْ. This is the same understanding we gave in the previous discussion, that Fir'aun tells Musa, that Fir'aun tells the magicians who believed in Musa alayhi salam, that are you going to believe in Musa before I give you the permission to believe in him? Okay, this is the understanding we need to first remove. That Baba, when I see the truth, I actually obey the truth and accept the truth. Okay, now look at how Imam Khomeini in his Adab al-Salah explains this this dilemma so beautifully. Okay, he says that so he's discussing the different hijabs and different barriers of understanding the Quran. Okay, so one of those barriers, he says, is jumud bar aqwal mufassirin. When you are stuck in the opinions of the mufassirin and the exegetists. Okay, all what you are stuck with is what did the mufassirin say. You don't want to think for yourself. Okay, so notice what he says. He says یکی دیگر از حجوب که مانع از استفاده از این صحیفه نورانی است. One of the barriers which stops us from benefiting from the Quran is اعتقاد به آن که جز آن که مفسرین نوشته یا فهمیدن کسی را حق استفاده از این قرآن نیست. Okay, beautiful. That anybody, we have this belief, and this is a big barrier for understanding the Quran, that whatever the exegetists and mufassirin have written and understood is the right only. Nobody else has the authority and the right to understand the Quran except the mufassirin. Okay? Now, look at how he explains the dilemma. He puts it very nicely. He says, وَتَفَكُّرْ وَتَدَبُّرْ دَرْ آيَاتِ الشَّرِيفَةِ را بِتَفْسِيرِ رَأْيِ اشْتِبَاهِ نَمُودِ أَنْدَ. Okay, this is how he explains the dilemma very beautifully. He says, on one side, Allah is telling us, do tafakkur, do ponder, do reflect. Okay? On the other side, we have been told tafsir al-ra'i is wrong. Okay? Putting your own opinions on the Quran is wrong. Now, the way Imam Khomeini is explaining is this way. He's saying is that the scholars have done is they have told us that any thinking and any tadabbur and in any contemplation on the Quran is equivalent to tafsir bil-ra'i and thus not accepted. So if I were to think today and come up with understanding on the Quran, I'm not allowed because it's tafsir bil-ra'i. This is what Imam Khomeini is trying to say. Okay, this is the dilemma we are going through now. On one side we have the Quran, which is telling us think. On the other side we have tafsir bil-ra'i. We have chosen, meaning the scholarship or whatever now has chosen that, okay, we will tell the people that you are doing tafsir bil-ra'i. You need to go back to the expert. Okay? And then he goes on further, he says, وَبِوَاسِطِ إِنْ رَأْيِ فَاسِدْ وَأَقِيدَ بَاطِلِ. These are not my words, these are his words. He says, this is a wrong and a batil opinion, that only what the mufassirin have understood is right. No, we respect their opinion, but that's not the only opinion out there according to Imam Khomeini. Okay, this is a wrong opinion to have this, a wrong thought to have that whatever they have understood only is right, but rather Quran Sharif ra az jami' فنون استفاده آری نموده و آن را به کلی مهجور نموده اند. What's the result now? See the result, very dangerous result. And thus we need to come back to the Quran first. Okay, he says because of this wrong thought and wrong belief that only what mufassirin understand is right, then we have stopped ourselves from benefiting from the Quran in different fields now. And thus the Quran has become abandoned and mahjur. Inna qawm ittakhadhu hadha al-Qur'ana mahjura. The Holy Prophet on the Day of Judgment will complain that my community abandoned the Quran. This is the reason. This is the reason Imam is discussing, that because now I as a layman cannot discuss and not read the Quran because I'm not an expert. Because if I come up with an opinion that will be tafsir bil-ra'i, that's better I don't read the Quran at all. Okay? And thus the Quran has been abandoned altogether. This is a Shia and a Sunni problem. This is one example. A second example. Now look at how what is happening in the seminaries is trickling down to our communities, okay, in our societies also. So I was recently listening to one of the speakers and scholars in one of the communities on the wafat of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was giving a majlis, delivering a lecture. Now the topic of his discussion was, notice how he's repeating what he has been taught, okay? The topic of discussion was Ilmul ghayb. Okay, now very unfortunately the talk starts with labels. Okay, that it's the Wahhabis who believe that the Quran, who don't believe in Ilmul ghayb, and the reason for that is because they pick and choose in the Quran. Okay, they pick and choose. Now, not understanding that every follower of every madhab picks and chooses. Okay, everyone has their own biases. This is something Allama Tabatabai discusses in his introduction in Al-Mizan also, that how every group have their own biases, and thus we need to come back to the Quran. Okay, so again, we quickly must label everybody else that it's Wahhabis now who are doing it, and those who follow Wahhabis and they've become Shia Salafis and Shia Wahhabis. Now, this is not him saying it. Unfortunately, books are coming out in Qum with these titles, okay? So it's not, they are just repeating what they're being told, okay? Unfortunately. So these are books. I have three volumes. I hope you can see it. There are more volumes to it, around the 7 to 8 volumes. I didn't buy all the volumes. So the discussion is, notice that the heading of, I don't know if you can see the heading, Naqd Andishe Salafigariye Irani. Allahu Akbar. Now, the authors who are written in these books, I personally also disagree with their opinions, okay? I personally don't agree with the opinions. But calling them Iranian Salafis, this is what I'm saying. Anybody would disagree with, so it's critique of the thoughts of the Iranian Salafis. Okay, so this is on the topic of Imam, this is on the topic of Tawassul, and this is on the topic of Mahdawiyat, the 12th Imam alayhi salam. Okay, so these are not something which these scholars on the mimbar are using these terminologies. These are books which are coming out from here, which are talking about Salafis, Shia Salafis now. So anybody now who has issues with Ilmul ghayb is quickly branded as a Shia Wahhabi, yeah, as a Shia Salafi. Now, the issue I'm very quickly discussing, inshallah, sometime in the future, if Allah gives tawfiq, we can discuss the whole issue of Ilmul ghayb in more detail and more depth, where we go into century-wise discussion. But when it comes to the issue of Ilmul ghayb now, what I'm trying to say is, the point I was trying to make is these scholars, okay, the way they come on the mimbar, they hardly have time to research, okay? And this is not them, this is not something which is hidden, okay? Anybody who talks to these scholars, anybody who follows up with these scholars will tell you, because their timetable is filled, okay? So I remember speaking to one of the scholars from Pakistan. He's a very famous speaker in Pakistan. So in Pakistan, notice, in Muharram, a scholar can give up to 5 lectures a day. You know, giving 1 lecture a day is a jihad by itself. You have 5 lectures a day. So I remember meeting him and asking him that, how do you do it? How do you even prepare 5 lectures, leave alone 5? 1 lecture preparing is by itself a job. So how can you prepare for 5 lectures a day? So he was very open to me, alhamdulillah. He tells me that I don't prepare. Okay, I pay people to prepare on my behalf. They prepare a majlis for me. I just go read the majlis. Okay, it's similar to a lot of speakers because they don't have time to prepare. Now, unfortunately, they come and discuss issues which require more research. Yes, discussing issues which are basic of akhlaq and ethics and all that doesn't require much time. But discussing academic issues requires time. And that's why you will notice that our majalis are a lot of time repetitions also. And the reason is they don't have the time to prepare what they need to prepare. Okay? So, when they don't have to prepare, the Hausa and the seminary taught to them one mindset. Thus, they will not read the other understanding and the diverse opinion on that side, unless, and very exceptionally, if you have a teacher who can teach you how to read diverse opinions. Otherwise, you don't end up. What happens is, now you see the disparity between the members and the pulpits and the scholarship. Okay, the scholarship is on one level and the member is on another level altogether. Okay, now come and see. Very clearly, they want to quickly brand everybody as Shia Wahhabis. So notice now, I'm giving a very quick snapshot of the discussions on Ilmul al-ghayb. That's not my discussion for today, nor am I giving any conclusions on this or my opinions on this. What I'm just giving you is a snapshot and trying to show you that the disparity between the scholarship and the pulpit. We need to bring this disparity a bit closer. Okay? And people have to realize that there's scholarship going on within a lot of topics. Okay? So this is a book. علم امام از دیدگاه کلام امامیه از قرن اول تا قرن هفتم هجری. Okay? And these are books not being published by dubious publishers. They're being published by renowned and very mainstream publishers. This is Ayatollah Misbah Yazdi's bookshop and publisher. Okay? So somebody cannot come and tell me over there a dubious publisher published it. No. These are published by very renowned scholars and their publishing houses. Okay? So notice what happens. And the reason he's discussing his notice is discussing the Ilmul al-ghayb of Imam from the viewpoint of the theologians from the 1st century till the 7th century. Now, if the opinion was the same, then why discuss the different centuries then? Shows you that there have been differences of opinion and diverse opinions on such a topic. Now, I'm picking up these fundamental topics. These are fundamental beliefs of Shia Ithna Ashari. Okay? We also believe in Ilmul al-ghayb and Isma, the way I will show. But these are fundamental discussions which scholars have differed upon. Now, if on fundamental issues they have differed, then what about the other detailed discussions? Other petty other details, beliefs, which are not as important as these beliefs. Okay? Now, come on page 123. Okay? So the first discussion, as I said, I'm giving you a very quick snapshot of what's happening in the world of Ilm al-ghayb. Inshallah, when we get time, we will discuss all the different opinions out there and the different directions which the scholars have gone into. So he's quoting Allama Tabrasi from his Majma' al-Bayan. As I said, scholars don't like quoting Majma' al-Bayan. One of the reasons is this now. Can you see the diverse opinions coming out? Under verse number 123 of Surah Hud, Surah number 11, where Allah says, وَلِلَّهِ غَيْبُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Okay, these are verses repeated in the Quran, that Allah is the owner of the ghayb of the earth and the heavens. Okay? He is the one who has all the knowledge of the hidden everything. Okay? So he says, Allama Tabrasi, he's quoting, this scholar is quoting that مخالفان در ذیل تفسیر این آیه شیعه را به استناد علم غیب به ائمه متهم کرده است. The ones who are not Shias have now accused Shias they believe in Ilmul al-ghayb and they're ascribing Ilmul al-ghayb to the Imams. Okay? Allama Tabrasi comes and refutes this. He comes and says that ما کسی از شیعیان اثنا عشری را نمیشناسیم که فردی از بندگان خدا را با این وصف توصیف نماید. We don't believe and we have not seen, and this shows you the understanding of the scholars in the 5th, 6th century, Shia scholarship. Okay? He says that we don't know of any Shia scholar, of any Shia person who believes that Imams have Ilmul ghayb. Okay? Can you see this? Okay? Now, the problem is what? The problem is the terminology. It's not that Allama Tabrasi doesn't believe in Ilmul ghayb. He believes in Ilmul ghayb. He believes that the prophets and the Imams knew the hidden knowledge. Okay? But the terminology is a problem. Why? Because it goes very closely and equals itself with Allah. Okay? And thus the scholars and the theologians were very careful in using their terminologies. That they didn't want to use the word Ilmul ghayb, which would then be equal to Alimul ghayb, who is Allah. Okay? So they say Ilmul ghayb and Alimul ghayb is only reserved for Allah. So now you want to use the word Ilmul ghayb, you want to use the word Ilmul ladunni or whatever. Okay? But this was one controversy, which again, these scholars are very, either they're unaware of it, that's a musibah, or they are purposely and intentionally hiding these matters, then that's a greater musibah. Okay? That is one issue. So the first issue is the terminology issue. Now, I've not seen any Shia scholar who denies Ilmul ghayb for the prophets and the Imams. No one. Rather, the Quran is very clear. Okay, so just one example. Verse number 44 of Surah Al Imran, Surah number 3. Allah is talking to the Prophet. ذَلِكَ مِنْ أَنْبَاءِ الْغَيْبِ نُوحِيهِ إِلَيْكَ وَمَا كُنْتَ لَدَيْهِمْ إِذْ يُلْقُونَ أَقْلَامَهُم. O Prophet, these are the reports and the accounts of the unseen which we are revealing it to you. Allah has used the word ghayb also. Okay, so Allah is the knower of the ghayb and the unseen. He is now sharing the ghayb and the unseen with the Prophet. Do you get me? Okay, so I don't know if there's any scholar within the Muslim Ummah who would deny that the prophets had Ilmul ghayb. Okay, the hidden knowledge. Now, the wording can be differed upon. Ilmul ghayb, Ilmul ladunni, ilma whatever you want to call it, ilma X you want to call it, no problem. The issue is not with the terminology. The issue is the concept itself. Okay, so this issue is not debatable by any, at least in the Shia scholarship. What I'm trying to call about this is the disparity which I'm talking about now. A Shia speaker who comes on the minbar very confidently labels everybody as Shia Wahhabi, okay? Somebody who has issues with Ilmul ghayb, not realizing that within the Shia scholarship, there's diversity of opinion on this whole issue. Okay? So, here is another book. I'm just showing you quick books. Inshallah, later we can come and discuss these books. Pajuhishi Darbare Ilm Imam. This is a book translated by Dr. Ali Sherwani. Ali Sherwani is a very renowned researcher in the House of Qom. He has translated a small epistle. It's a small booklet by Allama Muhammad Hussein Muzaffar and Allama Tabatabai. They have small epistles on the topic of Ilmul Imam. Okay, so he's translated that into Persian. But what's important is he mentions the different opinions on the topic of Ilmul Imam in the beginning. So page number 16, notice, I don't know if you can read. Mashrabhay gunagun darbare ilm imam. Okay? The different opinions and the different thoughts on the issue of ilm of imam. Do you get me? Okay? The 5 opinions he mentions in this book. Okay? So notice the first opinion he mentions is tardid. I don't know if I can zoom somehow. Tardid dar hudud ilm imam. Can you see where it reaches? Okay, tardid meaning that these scholars have doubted the levels and the limits of ilm of imam. How much knowledge does the imam have? Okay, this is the discussion. The discussion is not if whether the imams have ilmul ghayb or not. They have ilmul ladunni. Nobody denies that. The discussion within the scholarship is in the quantity, in the extent, in the limits and the boundaries of this Ilmul ghayb. How much knowledge do they have? Okay, what extent of knowledge do they have? Now, let me quote you a statement from Sheikh Ansari and then come to give you just titles from this book which I was quoting, okay? Notice this is Sheikh Ansari. Now, I don't know if he will be labeled as a Shia Wahhabi, I don't know, Shia Salafi, I don't know. وأما مسألة مقدار معلومات الإمام عليه السلام. Can you see? A scholar knows where to pinpoint the discussion. Opposite to what's happening in our pulpits. And that's what I'm trying to say. That we need to bring this disparity closer and closer. Okay? So now notice, a scholar like Sheikh Ansari, without whom Hawza is no Hawza. Okay? He's the father and a giant in the Hawza. He comes and says that when it comes to the miqdar ma'lumat al-imam, not the ilmul ghayb itself, how much does the imam know? What is the quantity? What is the limit and the boundaries of the knowledge of the imam? This is the discussion. Not about ilmul ghayb. Ilmul ghayb nobody has issues with. And you will never see scholars on the pulpits discussing this. Even conferences are held, nobody will discuss this. Okay? Now, this is number one. And number two, وَكَيْفِيَةُ عِلْمُهُ بِهَا. How does Imam acquire that knowledge? This is second discussion. Now, his opinion, he says, فَلَا يَكَادُ يُظْهَرُ مِنَ الْأَخْبَارِ الْمُخْتَلِفَةِ فِي ذَلِكَ مَا يُطْمَئَنُّ بِهِ النَّفْسِ. Hardly any certainty, hardly any itminan is being achieved when you study the different contradictory narrations on this topic. And you'll never see a scholar coming and telling you that there are contradictory narrations on this topic. And thus we are trying to do that. And I'm not saying I'm alone on that. Some others also are trying to do that. But we are trying to bring that empowerment by saying that this is a topic. These are the things which are being discussed in it. Come and conclude. Let's come and make our own opinions out of it. Okay? Now, he says that you hardly can get a very satisfying answer on this issue. Why? Because the riwayats are very contradictory. And thus the nafs doesn't get itminan, the heart doesn't get satisfied with one opinion. So what's your opinion, Sheikh Ansari? He comes and says, فَالْأَوْلَى وَكُولُ عِلْمُ ذَلِكَ إِلَيْهِمْ صَلَوَاتُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. Can you see the opinion? The opinion of Sheikh Ansari is this, that better and the best opinion is silence, tawaqquf. I don't have an opinion. They are the ones who have said it. They are the ones who know the better. The Imams know it better and the Prophets know it better. We don't know because the akhbar and the riwayats are very contradictory. And thus we cannot give an opinion. So we are silent on this. We are adopting a no opinion status. Do you get me? Okay? This is scholarship. Now look at his student. Sheikh Muhammad ibn Ja'far al-Tabrizi has a commentary on his Rasail. Okay? So that statement I quoted was from the famous Rasail of Sheikh Ansari. This is a commentary on Rasail. أوثق الوسائل في شرح الرسائل. Okay? The author, who is a student of Sheikh Ansari, notice his statement. He makes it even more clearer what's the opinion of Sheikh Ansari. He says, وَلَا رَيْبَ أَنَّ التَّوَقُّفْ كَمَا أَفَادَهُ الْمُصَنِّفِ في خصوص علم الإمام. Okay? There's no doubt the opinion which Sheikh Ansari has adopted and the opinion of tawaqquf, no opinion. We are going to adopt silence on this topic. Sabilus salama. It shows you that even his student's opinion was the same. Okay? That's the best and the safest opinion. Why? لِإِخْتِلَافِ الْأَخْبَارِ فِي ذَلِكَ جِدًّا. Okay? There's a lot of contradiction in the riwayats. Lot, not only less. جِدًّا. There's a lot of contradiction. وَمَا يُمْكِنُ بِهِ الْجَمْعِ بَيْنَ الْأَخْبَارِ. And there's no possibility of reconciling between these contradictory narrations. Okay? Can you see now the effect of spoon feeding now? Okay, the member comes and confidently labels anybody who has issues with Ilmul al-ghayb as Shia Salafi and Shia Wahhabi, whereas scholarship is on the other side altogether. They are discussing issues to an extent that Sheikh Ansari comes and says, I don't have an opinion on the issue of Ilmul Imam. Okay, do they have knowledge? How much knowledge do they have? It's better to stay silent. So the other four opinions, inshallah, we can discuss it sometime later, inshallah. Okay, very quickly now to show you, okay, the discussion scholars are having, and then what is being showed on what is being discussed on the pulpit. Okay, as I say that now either the scholars are unaware of it, and because of their busy schedules, possibly they're unaware of it, and some are purposely hiding it. Now that's the musibah, which we'll come and discuss it again in the subsequent discussions. Okay, now this book, again, I'm quoting from this book. I'm just giving you the table of contents, okay, to show you that what kind of discussions are being discussed when it comes to the whole issue of Ilmul al-ghayb. Okay, now you call it Ilmul al-ghayb, you call it Ilmul laduni, whatever you want to discuss it. Okay, بررسی دیدگاه اصحاب ائمه علیهم السلام. So the companions of the Imams, what were the opinions in regards to Ilmul Imam? So you will go back and you will see books being written on this topic, that what were the opinions and differences within within the companions of the Imams themselves. Okay, we have partially discussed this in our previous discussions. Notice Agahi Imam as ulum dini. So how much knowledge does Imam have in regards to religious knowledge? This is one discussion they would have. The second discussion they would have is the knowledge of Imam dar ulum ghayr dini. How much knowledge does Imam have on issues related to non-religious matters? Okay, so what are those non-religious matters? Ilm bi hawadith guzashte wa ayande, ilm manaya wa balaya. Okay, the past and the future. Does the Imam have the knowledge of the past, present, and the future? This is a discussion which scholars are having. Okay, I'm showing you the titles only, giving you a snapshot of the discussions. To come and present these discussions as very simplistic discussions, that there are no differences and no diverse opinions on this is, I don't know, what should I say about it? Okay, Agahi az-zama'ir. Okay, does Imam know the inner intentions of us? Okay, so the way today it's commonly perceived that before you go to the Imam would tell you what you know. This is a discussion within the scholars. Does the Imam have the knowledge of your inner intentions? And you go previously and read classical scholars and you'll be surprised of their opinions. Ilm bi asma' shi'ayan. Does the Imam have the knowledge of all the Shias or no? Raftar Imam bar asas ilm imamat. So does Imam act upon the ilm he has been given? Okay, as we said, we agree that ilm, there was an extra ilm which was given to the Imams, not given to others. But does the Imam act upon that knowledge or not? Agahi az hame hawadis zameen. Okay, another discussion. Does Imam have all the knowledge of what's happening on the earth? Can you see? These were discussions the companions of the Imams were having them. Can you see that? Okay. Now come to Baghdad. This is where Sheikh Mufid and Sayyid Murtada and Sheikh Tusi and Sheikh Ibn Shahar Ashub and Allama Tabrasi all come in here. The Maktab of Baghdad. Notice the way they discuss. Mahdude ilm Imam. Can you see this? Okay, they're not discussing the Ilmul al-ghayb itself. They're discussing the limits and the boundaries of this ilm. How much knowledge does this Imam have? These are the discussions which the scholars are having. Okay, Zaman kamil shudene ilm Imam. When is the time where the Imam's knowledge becomes complete? From his birth, when he becomes baligh, when he becomes an Imam, or after his becoming an Imam? These are all discussions the scholars have. Why? Based on the riwayats we have. Okay. Then musawi nabudan imaman dar ilm. Okay, This is another discussion. Do all Imams have one type of knowledge? Are all on the same level? Scholars have difference of opinion altogether. Okay, they will believe Imam Ali is higher than the other Imams, and other Imams are higher than. The discussions which are being held by the scholars out there. These are Shia scholarship. I'm not talking about Sunni scholarship. Okay, and then you go further. Okay, he goes ilm bis-sana'i wa mashaghil. Does Imam have the knowledge of the different occupations and professions? Okay, so the Imam, does he know carpentry? Does Imam know economics? Does the Imam know all the other occupations and professions? So Imam, if you give him a saw and a wood, would he be able to do carpentry? Now, I'm just saying, I'm giving you a snapshot of the type of discussions which are happening. Okay, to come and present it as simply the way it's being presented is very unfair. Okay, ilm bi tamam zaban ha. Does Imam know all the languages? Okay, ilm agahi Imam az zaman shahadat khud. Does Imam have the knowledge of when is he going to die, where is he going to die? And this has created controversy in regards to the shahada of Imam Hussein alayhi salam also. For those of you aware, the book Shahid Agha and Shahid Jaweed and all this controversy came up because of this issue. Okay, the discussions are huge. Now, I'm giving you another example. A very fundamental belief within Shiism is the issue of isma. Okay, infallibility. Now, I'm quoting just again a snapshot. Again, as I said, I'm not discussing these issues. I want to show you a snapshot of what's happening. Okay, اسمت امام در تاریخ تفکر امامیه از قرن so this is از قرن تا پایان قرن پنجم. Okay, so this is from the first century till the 5th century. The thought and the difference of opinions within the scholars and the ashab of the Imams on the issue of infallibility till the 5th century. This is from the 6th century till contemporary date. Okay, now look at the type of discussions. As I said, nobody denies the discussion on infallibility. I've not seen a scholar within the Shia scholarship deny infallibility. But look at the discussions they have. Okay, and this is where I come and say that until we are not open to discussing these issues, we are still very far away from mentioning opinions and altogether clarifying on our opinions. See, what he discusses is under Sheikh Saduq. Okay, I don't know if you can see this. آموزه های اسمت امام در اندیشه محدثان تا پایان قرن پنجم. Okay, so the views of the muhaddithin, the scholars of hadith within Shiism on the topic of isma and infallibility. So he's giving the example of Sheikh Saduq to start with. I don't know if you can see. Notice the type of discussions he's having. The discussions they have is not on the issue of infallibility. The issue they have is in qalamro ismat. Okay? What's the hudud? What are the limits? What are the limits and boundaries of isma and infallibility? Now look at the discussions. Ismat as gunah kabire wa saghire pish as imamat. Can an imam commit sin before he becomes an imam? This is a discussion. You will go see classical scholars have the opinion on this. Ismat as gunah kabire wa saghire pas as imamat. So after the imam becomes the imam, can he still commit sins or not? Ismat as ishtibah dar amal bideen. Okay? Can an imam, while acting upon a religious injunction, can he make a mistake in that? Okay, this is where the whole discussion of sahwun nabi comes in that. Okay, can he make a mistake on that? Ismat as ishtibah dar umur adi, in the regular affairs of daily affairs. Can the imam make mistakes in the daily affairs of his life? So he wants to eat, he wants to drink, he wants to choose a wife, he wants to go to a battle, he wants to go shop something. Is the Prophet and the Imam being sent a wahi every moment and being told that, okay, go eat now, go drink now, go choose a wife now, go do this, go do that, go do choose a governor, okay? All these things, are they based on wahi or no? The Imams can make ishtibah and they can make mistakes on this. So examples are given like an Imam can choose a governor and then later realize that governor was not the right governor. Now, did the Imam know about it? Not know about it? Imam chooses a wife and then later knows that this wife actually wants to poison him. Okay? Or they go to a war and then they decide, okay, this is the right way of war and this is not the right way of war. Can the Imam and the Prophet make mistakes on that issue or not? These are discussions, scholars have them. Okay? Ismat az ishtibah wa faramooshi dar tabyin deen. Imam, can he make a mistake while explaining the religion? Okay? Opinions are being shared out here. Ismat az ishtibah dar nazariyat ilmi. Okay? Now, when it comes to explaining scientific knowledge, okay, can Imam make a mistake when explaining scientific realities? Or the Imam has the knowledge of all the scientific realities? These are discussions the scholars are having them. Okay? Now, to come in, the point I was trying to make, I'm sorry I took a bit of time. Normally, I do try and make it to a 30-minute, but I had to, I'm sorry I'm prolonging this, but I have to mention some things because I have to explain my methodology by examples, yeah? That why have I adopted the methodology I've adopted, okay? The reason I've adopted is that first of all, we need to bring these discussions to the public, okay? To the masses who even can accept it, at least in the seminaries, okay? In the places where there's acceptability of opinions, discuss these issues, and then go further, then adopt a methodology which later we will want to adopt. But this is the first stage of discussing it, okay? I hope I'm clarifying myself. I'm taking time, slowly explaining with practical examples so that I can make it very clear as to why I've adopted the path I've adopted, okay? Let's pray to Allah. Allah, give us the heart to be able to accept others, accept their diverse opinions, and have the heart to not label others, rather accept them as they are. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.